Hello, everyone. Welcome back to TrekWars at OSU. I'm Dr. Joseph Orosco. I'm a professor of philosophy at Oregon State University, and I'm also the co-director of the Anarres Project for Alternative Futures. Today on TrekWars at OSU, we're going to be talking about Star Trek memorabilia collection. So, like many different Star Trek fans, I like to collect different Star Trek memorabilia. Some of my early toys that I had were Star Trek toys, and I've always liked to collect action figures and different props of technology and weapons from the Star Trek universe. This year I had a birthday, and I was able to acquire one prop that I have been having my eye on for many, many years that had a lot of meaning to me because it was from an episode from the early Star Trek, the original series that I really have always appreciated. So this year I had a big birthday. I turned 50, and I wanted to acquire a prop that I'd had my eye on for many years. So this is a prop of the Type 3 phaser rifle that appeared in some of the early episodes of Star Trek, the original series. Some of these are very expensive and they're very rare to find built online. And so I was able finally to find one that was relatively inexpensive and purchase it for myself. This was sort of a holy grail of Star Trek toys and memorabilia that I wanted to find. Today, we're going to talk to a Star Trek memorabilia collector superfan. Her name is Lisa Herrera. I met her a year or so ago at a virtual Comic-Con, and I've been following her now for about a year on Twitter. Her handle is #1 Trek fan, and what she's done on her Twitter feed is to document the extensive collection of thousands of different Star Trek memorabilia items. We're going to talk a little bit about what she has in her collection, what are the sort of key pieces that she really enjoys, and why she collects these pieces from the Star Trek universe and what Star Trek means to her. So, we're going to talk a little bit about what this practice of being a fan is and collecting items is all about. So, why don't we turn now to talk with Lisa Herrera about Star Trek memorabilia collection. So we're here with Lisa Herrera, who is a super collector of Star Trek memorabilia. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited to speak with you about this. So, part of the reason that I know about you, we met last year through a virtual Comic-Con, and I started following you on Twitter. And your Twitter handle is at #1 Trek fan, which I've learned is really appropriate for you. For a long time now, you've been, online, you've been cataloging your extensive Star Trek collection of different memorabilia, from toys and action figures to letters and photographs and autographs. A lot of different stuff. And so part of the reason I wanted to talk with you is just because I'm in awe of your collection of stuff. But before we get started talking about the memorabilia, I wanted to talk to you about being a Star Trek fan. How were you first introduced to Star Trek, and what did it mean to you when you first encountered Star Trek? So, what was your sort of entry point into the Star Trek universe?
Yeah. Well, I was a huge reader when I was a kid. I read a lot, and I think I was, always interested in uh, sort of speculative type of fiction. My favorite author was Robert Heinlein for a long time. Read all of his books. So I was I got very, very deeply into science fiction. I read Robert Heinlein, I read Isaac Asimov, I read Arthur C. Clarke, Ray Bradbury, anyone who was sort of a big name in science fiction. I would discover like, oh, they've got 56 books. Okay. And then I'm going to start reading all of those. So I did that. Um, so I was very, very interested in just space and science fiction. How I got into Star Trek though was kind of funny because I was a kid and I was uh, over at a friend's house, or actually I don't even remember if she was a friend. She was a neighborhood person. And back in those days in the 70s, everyone had their TVs on all the time. Maybe they still do now, but I mean at the time, you go to someone's house and their TV is always running in the background. So I was over at her house, and Star Trek came on. I'd never seen it before. It was The Trouble with Tribbles. And I can't remember who this friend was, but I remember The Trouble with Tribbles Boy. I remember seeing it. I remember feeling like I couldn't believe something so wonderful was in the world. It was like tasting chocolate for the first time. It was just astonishing to me. And it turned out that over the summer they would run Star Trek every night at 7 o'clock. So that's what I did. I watched the original series every night at 7 o'clock. And then I watched it as much as I could. Anytime that I knew it was running, I would watch it. And for a number of years, there are some episodes that they don't run all the time. So for a number of years, I would, be watching and then go, oh, I've never seen this episode before, I'd watch a new episode. But mostly I was just watching the old episodes over and over and over again. So that's how I came into Star Trek. Was the original series in syndication in the 1970s, and yeah, I fell hard when I saw it, and it was absolutely love at first sight.
Yeah,
Captain
what was
Kirk
it
is
that,
my
that you
captain.
loved? Yeah, well, yeah, what was it that you loved about watching the original series in that way? Like, what captured your imagination?
You know, so many things. Captain Kirk is my captain. He always has been. And it's not that I don't love all the other incarnations of Star Trek, because I do. I watch them all. I watched all of them in the original run after the original series that I wasn't born when it started. But the rest of them I've watched, as in their run. But Captain Kirk is my captain, and the kind of captain that he is my captain. He. What I love about Star Trek is that they believe that there should be justice, and they try to bring it about. You know, there's something about Captain Kirk and the way that he conducts himself, and the way that he stands up for what is right. That just completely resonates with me. There's also the three characters, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and their friendship for each other. Their sort of sparring and their love for each other. That you know, I wish I had people like that in my life. I could watch that forever and ever. I love that so much. And then there's the thought-provoking stories, like just some of the ideas that are in the Star Trek episodes. There's often I'll be talking to someone and I'll say, well, it always comes back to Star Trek, and then I will you know describe the episode that relates to the thing that we are talking about. So it's what Star Trek is and what it represents. For me, it was also, I was a kid of color, growing up in a community that didn't have a lot of kids of color. I was born in Trinidad, but my family came to Canada when I was quite young, and we came to Nova Scotia. There weren't a lot of kids of color around me, and Star Trek had everybody, and Star Trek, showed me that there was a place in the future for people like me, and that in the future there wasn't going to be bullies taunting you, or people ostracizing you because of the color of your skin, or where you were from. you know so it was thought provoking, but it was a safe haven for me. I was at home in Star Trek. And when I go to conventions, uh people who love Star Trek, and there are some people who dabble in Star Trek, I've discovered, which I find funny, but people who love Star Trek, uh they tend to be very warm and accepting people. And when I go to, conventions, Star Trek conventions, I always feel like I'm going home to the best family reunion that you could ever possibly go to. The people who love Star Trek, for the most part, are really good people and people that I like to be around, you know. So Star Trek was, you know, it was for me, it was, you know, interesting and, you know, just entertaining, but it was home. It was the home that I chose, you know.
That's beautiful. No, I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really, you know, when I talk with Star Trek fans, everyone always has some kind of a story about that, and a lot of those kinds of themes do pop up in a lot of different ways. Well, let's talk about your collection. So, um, how long have you been collecting Star Trek memorabilia?
Since I first started watching it. I mean, you know, from the first time that I knew that there was Star Trek memorabilia, I started collecting it. I've been a collector. My earliest memories are of collecting things, just interesting things. So it was kind of natural that I would start collecting around Star Trek.
So, how
Um,
many items do you think that you have, roughly speaking, of your Star Trek collection?
Thousands,
Yeah.
thousands. It would actually be hard for me to count because um, what I do with my collection, when I get a new piece, I take a picture of it and I put it in a catalog. I have to because sometimes in the past, what would happen is I would find something that was really cool and I'd buy it, and then I discover that I already owned it because it was so cool.
Yeah.
So I started taking pictures and cataloging it. Um, so I had thought that maybe I could do a rough count from that, except that I tend to take multiple pictures of one item so that I can sort of see either condition or sort of just, you know, because most of my stuff is packed away, it's really my only way to kind of look at some of the things that I have. So I kind of want to be able to see it from a few different angles, right? So it's hard for me to estimate, but um, it's at least thousands.
Wow. Well, and from what I understand, right, the collection that you have just behind you in your home is just a fraction of the stuff that you own. You also have collections elsewhere.
Well, what you see is the stuff that's out, but what you don't see behind me are the steamer trunks that are full of the things that are packed away.
Wow.
So, you know, I started out with one steamer trunk, and I now have 8 steamer trunks full of stuff. And then all the stuff that you see that's out is stuff that will not fit in a steamer trunk because those 8 steamer trunks are full. And I actually have no more room. I don't know how I'm going to keep collecting, but anyway, that's another problem for another day.
Well, let's talk about some of your items. And so, I asked beforehand if you would, you know, sort of look over some of your stuff, and so that we could talk about. So, one of the things I asked you, because I know that you are really big into Star Trek history, production of Star Trek. Do you have a favorite item from Star Trek history that you could share with us?
Yeah, I do. You know, that question is such a hard question for me because I have several items. So it's hard for me to pick just one. But Star Trek history, I think if I had to pick a favorite, I'd probably pick this one right now. But let's see if I can get it. Can you see that? So that's
Yep.
Gene Roddenberry and Susan Sackett. And this was taken on the day that Gene Roddenberry received his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which was uh, arranged by Susan Sackett. So to get a star on the Walk of Fame, you have to apply for it. You have to raise all the money for it. You have to arrange the ceremony, blah, blah, blah. You have to do the whole thing. And so she did all of that,
Oh, wow.
raised the money from fans and various things, and got him he got him his star on the Walk of Fame. And in thanks, this is one of the things that he gave her. Susan Sackett was his assistant, right? So this is one of the things he gave her, and it's signed Gene. So this was the first autograph from Gene Roddenberry that I got.
Wow. Did she write a book about working with him?
She's written a few books. She's written a couple of, I think, a couple of books with him, and then some books that are like about Star Trek. She's got one called Letters to Star Trek. And then she's written one that's called Inside Star Trek,
Yeah.
which is her most recent one, and that's about her working with him.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you like
So,
about this autograph?
well, you know, I wanted an autograph from Gene Roddenberry. I actually was very lucky that I got to see Gene Roddenberry. He used to go around and do, college tours, and he would bring the bloopers and things like that. And it was actually, it was 1985. I was down in Nova Scotia. I had been living in Edmonton, and my family moved back to Nova Scotia. I was down in Nova Scotia for just 1 year, but he came down to Dalhousie University, and he did a talk on February 16th. And I had a ticket. I got a ticket, and my friend and I went to see him. And I remember I wanted to take a picture, and I had a camera, and I went to take a picture, and they stopped me and they said no pictures. So I have no pictures from that time. I recently hunted down, and it was difficult to find, but I hunted down a scanned copy of the Dalhousie school, newspaper that they put out at the time that talks about him coming there. So I downloaded a copy of that, and I have that as sort of proof that he was there. Anyway, I saw him there. He gave a talk, but I never got his autograph. That wasn't something. I don't remember if it was available then, or if I would even have thought about it, about doing that at that time. So I really wanted one. But again, it's hard to get. It's hard to know if you're looking for an autograph, for someone who's deceased, whether or not it's authentic, right? So you do your due diligence. You look and see, who it's connected to. Is it just the store selling it? There's lots and lots and lots of fakes, right? You don't want to spend the money on a fake. So this, because it's Susan Sackett, that's authentic, right? So to me, that's a pretty cool autograph. The funny thing about this, though, is that along with this, she sold a couple of behind the scenes pictures because after the star ceremony, she had arranged a party, and there was, she made a cake for him, and so there's a few sort of behind the scenes pictures. But the funny thing is that just recently on eBay, I found James Van Hise. Do you recognize that name, James Van Hise? So he wrote articles about Star Trek. I don't remember when. I guess in the 80s and things like that. Anyway, I noticed that he had some pictures of the ceremony. Well, it turns out that he was the official photographer for that ceremony, and so he was selling prints that he had taken. I mean, anyway, so he was selling that. Plus, he also had, so I got this, he wrote an article for a magazine on the Roddenberry getting the star on the Walk of Fame. And he sold his original typewritten, because it was on typewriters back then, his original typewritten version of the article. And then the actual magazine where that article came out, and that showcased some of the pictures that he took. So wow, I have now I have the typewritten article. Wow. I have the article as it was published. I have pictures, and I have the pictures from that because he sold me the pictures, some pictures as well, some prints of the pictures that went into the article. And I have this.
Wow, so it's all thematic. That's very cool.
All sort of fits together, which is just, that's the best. That's the best when you sort of put the dots together. Yeah, I love it. Love that.
Great. Well, so this leads me then, obviously you're a huge fan. What's your favorite item that represents sort of fandom for you?
Yeah. Again, so many. Well, there's, I'm really wrestling between two things. One of them is, so a fan, and I don't know this fan's name, and I really wish that I did, but a fan in 1967, Leonard Nimoy was traveling to, where was he traveling to? He was giving a talk at, I think, a Rotary Club, and he was traveling to, it was the Booster Club Awards dinner in La Cruces, in He spoke to almost 500 persons at a dinner honoring New Mexico State University's intercollegiate athletes. Okay, so he was going there to do that. But the day before, he came early, and the day before he did a fan event. So it's 1967. So Star Trek was on the air September 8th, 1966. This is April 1967. It's their first year. He learned in this trip that they were renewed for the second year. Okay, so this fan who had something to do with his fan club, I don't know what she had to do with his fan club, she met him at the airport. Can you see that? She met him at the airport. Obviously, there was no such thing as security because she obviously went through and met him
Right up to
on
the
the
tarmac.
tarmac,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
She meets him there. She follows him there. Then I love this. She follows him to the, I don't know, it was a card store or a bookstore or something where he is talking to fans. So he's talking to fans, he's doing signings, he's there with them taking pictures. And actually, you can zoom in on some of these pictures and you see him with a cigarette in his hand, which that's the only time I've seen him with a cigarette in his hand is pictures like this. Then she follows him to his hotel. I don't know if you can see that. She follows him to his hotel.
Wow.
poses with under a sign that is welcoming him. There's two fans. There's her and another one. So the two of them take pictures. Then she comes back the next day, sees him leaving his hotel, follows him to that dinner, goes to that dinner, and I think she might have gotten his autograph. I think that's where she got the autograph, or maybe she got it at this airport. I'm not too sure. Then she follows him to the airport as he's leaving. And here's my favorite fan thing: is this picture. Do you see that, Leonard Nimoy there?
Yeah.
Okay, that is those two fans. In 1967, Star Trek has been on the air for 1 year, and they are in cosplay.
That's great. Wow.
I love that. They are in cosplay. It's 1967. Maybe Star Trek invented cosplay. I don't know.
Yeah, that's some pretty early stuff. Wow, that's dedication. That's very cool. How did you acquire that? Was she the one selling those photographs, or?
No, it was an estate sale. She took
Oh,
pictures of her TV screen. And I love that because look at that. That's what Star Trek looked like to her.
yeah.
That little bubble, that little bit of color.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love that.
That's amazing. That's an amazing find.
I
Wow.
did wrestle though with showing you a letter that I got from a fan who wrote to Gene Roddenberry to ask him about the 3D chess. He wanted to know if there were rules, and Gene Roddenberry wrote back and said, "Nope, no rules. You're free to make them up if you want."
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you. Well, so one of the big things that lots of people like to collect too, and this is something that I like to do myself, is Star Trek toys.
Yeah.
So I think my first collection, the thing that I bought when I was a kid, my mother bought this for me, was the Star Trek Mego Enterprise with all of the figures. Like, so I have one of those from back in the day. Oh, yeah.
Let's see. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so I have that, and I like to collect the toys. So for you, what's your favorite Star Trek toy?
Yeah. Okay, so I love toys. I love toys so much. Okay, so my favorite Star Trek toys are the original Remco toys. You know about the Remco toys? Yeah. So those were the toys that, they gave a license to this company, Remco, to create Star Trek toys, and whoever, was doing it either didn't know or didn't care about this show Star Trek, so they didn't bother to make any toys that were like, that were part of the show. They just took their old toys and stamped Star Trek onto the boxes and put the word Astro on it and made them Star Trek toys. I love these toys. And one of the reasons I love these toys is if you watch that Netflix series, the Toys That Made Us, it was now I think I can't remember who it was. One of the he talks, I think it's Doug Dressler, maybe. Can't remember if it was him. He talks about how people wouldn't buy, like kids wouldn't buy those toys because they don't look like Star Trek toys. So nobody really wanted them, which of course makes them hugely collectible, right? Because nobody wanted to buy those toys. They're just so quirky. They're just so weird and funny. They're also extremely expensive to get because they're hard to get. So I have very few of them that are like in a package or that kind of thing. But I do have a few that are loose. You can see a few of them back here that are there's a Astro tank. I love that Astro. Is it just a tank? It came with little soldiers, right? But it's got Star Trek stamped on the side. But my favorite Remco toy is this one. The Star Trek Astro helmet. And what I love about this, I was lucky enough to get it with the bug eyes intact, right? I mean, what I love about this is, what is it? Are you meant to be, playing a bug-eyed alien? What is it? What is it even outside of Star Trek? What did they think it was supposed to be? It is just the quirkiest little thing. I absolutely love this. The only one that rivals this is this helmet, which was made by Enco, I think it was. And that's the
that made a real big appearance right in Star Trek Lower Decks.
It did. It did. And
I finally canon.
Tell you, I was watching Lower Decks and that scene came on, the stuff dropped out of the ceiling and I went, oh, that's the Star Trek helmet. And then we watched, to the end of the episode and I ran it back and I did a freeze frame and I took a picture of that and I blew it up and I tweeted that to Mike McMahon and I just said, like, thank you. Like, I can't tell you how happy it makes me that this is now canon.
Yeah, that's a rare find. I've been seeing those on eBay pop up, and you have to pay a pretty penny to get a hand on those if you can't find them. That's very cool.
Anyway, yeah, but still, I mean, that's cool. But this was first.
Yeah, that's very odd.
This one is 1967. And most of the time, if you see this, the bug eyes are not intact anymore, right? Because that'd be the first thing that would go. So I quite enjoy having this one with the bug eyes intact.
That's very cool. Well, so I know that the other thing that you do a lot of conventions, you do a lot of cosplay, right? And so, following you around, I know that you've been going to a lot of different conventions and you have a pretty extensive costume collection. So, what's your favorite uniform?
This one, the one that I'm wearing right now.
Yeah.
Again, original series is my favorite series. Captain Kirk is my favorite captain. I always want to be the captain. Like, that's what I want to be. So I got this. I wish I could make things. I can't. I have to buy them. But I got this one and I sewed on captain's stripes on it. So this one is my favorite. And I try to wear this one every time I see William Shatner on GalaxyCon, although I haven't worn it all the time that I've seen him. And he's coming up again with Christopher Lloyd. But because it's, that's Star Trek 3, I'm thinking I may have to wear my Star Trek 3 uniform for that one. So, yeah. But
I mean, do you have uniforms from most of the... Oh, very nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you have uniforms from most of the series and movies?
I have. Okay, so I have the gold, the blue, the red from the original series as dresses. I have also a mirror costume from the original series, the Uhura costume. I have a Deep Space Nine / Voyager costume and a First Contact Next Generation costume. I also have, of course, the Star Trek movie Reds. I have those, and I have a Discovery and one for the upcoming Strange New Worlds. You know, the Captain Pike, the Captain Pike. I think. Oh, I also have Enterprise. I also have an Enterprise costume. Yeah.
Very
That's
cool.
what I'm looking over at my closet right there, trying to remember all of the. Did I say costumes? That was wrong. Uniforms. I have uniforms.
So, is this one your favorite because it's the original series command uniform? You know, honoring your favorite captain.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's the original series. It's Command. Yeah, and because it's got Captain Stripes.
Nice, nice. Let's talk about you know, the extent of your collection is pretty vast, but I know that you're an active collector. Is there stuff that you don't have that you would like to collect?
Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of stuff that I don't have that I would collect. Yeah. Um,
What do you
you
have
know,
your eye on?
there are things that there are things to fill in pieces of my collection where I'll have something, but I don't have the full set. So I have, for instance, there were 6 fanzines that were about Star Trek fans, and I have 5 of them. You know, so I would get that last one if I could fill that in. There was a night, I think it was a 25th anniversary Enterprise model where the little top pops off and you could see the bridge. Beautiful model. I actually got one and it came broken. So I would like to get that one into my collection because it's a really cool model, 25th anniversary model. You know, some of the things that I would like to get, I just haven't seen yet because I don't know, like, you know, the stuff that I'm really mostly pursuing are 1960s things that are connected directly to the show. So right now, I've managed to get a hold of a few things like contact sheets that were sent out, you know, by the network as promotional items in the 1960s, things like that. So that kind of stuff is not, you know, it's not a set or anything like that. It's just sometimes it pops up, and that's the kind of stuff that I really like. And I've been lucky recently. I've gotten a few of those things. So there's those kinds of things, and then there's another category of stuff that is, you know, I mean, there's a couple of categories of stuff that's kind of out of my reach. One of them is I would love some, you know, authentic props and things like that, you know, from the show. But you know, those are often thousands of dollars, and I just can't do those. But I would really love that. And then there are some reproduction stuff. Like I remember, I can't remember if it was last year. There was a guy who had built a working original series captain's chair, and I drooled over that for so long. I think it was $5,000 or $6,000 US, and he was down in California, and obviously you couldn't really ship it. You'd have to go down and, you know, get it. I you know, where would I put it? I mean, I literally have no room in this room. You know, they're large. You could take up a but oh, it was beautiful, and that I would love to have a working original series captain's chair. I would love that. And there's a couple of people on eBay who make really beautiful reproductions
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
you know, some of the set pieces, and those ones are, you know, tend to be a couple $100. So I may end up getting one of those. You know, like there's one that's the, you know, the little computer screen with the
Oh,
3
right. I've seen
sides.
those. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that looks pretty cool. And I think the guy that makes them, he seems to make, you know, quite quality stuff. So, you know, I may end up picking up one of those. But yeah, it's unfortunately endless. And you know, the funny thing is that my collection is mostly the original series. I've started to get nostalgic for the Next Generation. So I'm starting to pick up more things from the Next Generation. But I don't anticipate that being a major thing. Mostly I'll probably mostly stick with the original series and just a few key pieces of the next generation. And then for the other series, there are certain things that I just like to have kind of like anchor pieces, like mostly things like some of the cool press kits that got sent out, or something that's unique to to one of the series. I would like to get a few. I do have bits, I have action figures, and I have some toys and things like that. Badges, I always have badges, and obviously I have uniforms. But I would like a few sort of key pieces from each of the series.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's endless. It's really, yeah, it's not good. I mean, it's great, but it's also not good.
Well, I mean, this makes me, obviously you love your collection and you love collecting this kind of stuff. And so, and the story that you told about how you got into Star Trek, right? This beautiful story about the message of its values and what that spoke to you as a child. That was really powerful. But obviously it's something that keeps resonating with you as an adult, that you keep doing this. And so, why do you think that Star Trek has become such a big part of your life? Why do you think that you now like to surround yourself with so many um, items that are sort of tokens from this world and this
Mm,
universe? Like, why do you think that it's such a big part of your life still today?
yeah. Well, I mean, the message hasn't grown old. I mean, do you watch Discovery?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I watch everything. I wait eagerly for things to about, and part of my work actually is analyzing stuff. So like I try to I give it the excuse that I do this professionally, but yeah, I try to watch it all the new iterations as quickly as I can.
So you must remember the episode, without giving spoilers, but the episode with Captain Pike when he discovers his future. So that was a moment when I was watching where I literally stood up and just went, yes, it's right and good what his choice was. You know, it is so easy to take, the path of least resistance. It's so easy, to put yourself first, and to, to, yeah, to not consider uh, humanity and other people. And Star Trek, first of all, it gives you a future. It shows you there's a future, but it also shows you that we all have a part to get to that future. We all have to do something if that's the future that we want to get to. We're not going to get to that future if everybody is thinking of themselves, taking the path of least resistance. If people don't, wear a mask because not because it helps you, but because it helps somebody else. Like, those are the messages of Star Trek, that are true, and they remain true. And so for me, seeing that represented, seeing Captain Pike in that moment, know what his future was, and making the choice that he made, and making it consciously, you know, uh, to me, that was Star Trek. That was Star Trek in a nutshell. Was that moment there? And like I said, I leapt up off my seat to just, I couldn't express enough how much joy that, as much as it was a tragic moment, obviously, the joy in him making the right and good choice in that moment was, yeah, that to me is Star Trek.
That's great. I mean, that's one of the things I've really appreciated about like the new Star Treks is that they not only do they, have these kinds of moments in which they really harken back to the original series and even beyond that, right to the Cage, the pilot episode with Captain Pike, but some of it is funny and sarcastic and ironic in the way that they do it with Lower Decks, right,
Yes.
that we've talked about. But what's exciting to think about is the new Star Trek series that's going to be coming out in a year or to Strange New Worlds, which is the story of Captain Pike, Spock, and Number One. If you know, I always like to think about it is that that's going to be the Star Trek that was Gene Roddenberry's vision,
Yeah,
right? So that's what he wanted to see. He wanted to see Captain Pike at the helm of the Enterprise. And the executives, or for whatever reason, didn't like that vision, and we got what we did. But now, you know, some 50 plus years later, we're going to have the vision of Star Trek that Gene Roddenberry wanted. And so it's cool to see the sort of way in which the universe reflects upon itself and tries to be consistent with the message, one of hope, of growing sort of moral awareness of humanity, and this idea that, you know, we can build a better future, and that, you know, as you said, it takes our cooperation, our friendship, and our caring for one another to do that. It's something that I think that's always been really consistent, even still into some of the new iterations. So,
exactly. And I, honestly, I think that's why when when you're with a group of people who love Star Trek,
mm,
you tend to be with pretty decent people, because if they believe that message, it's kind of hard to to be a jerk if that's the message that is resonating with you, if that's the thing that you are believing in and looking to for your your compass.
yeah.
um, Pretty much you're going to be with pretty decent people.
Well, this brings up a question that I want to end with you is, so, you know, we're in the COVID era, and so there haven't been any conventions other than sort of online ones in which, you know, that's where we met. Um, but you know, it seems as though some conventions and conferences are going to start opening up sometime soon. And the big one, of course, is, you know, the kind of the, I don't know, the mecca of all of this, Star Trek Las Vegas for many people. Are there any of these cons that you're planning on doing sometime in the future, or that you look forward to getting back to?
Oh yeah. So I have tickets for Star Trek Las Vegas, although of course they can't call it that anymore, right? It's 55-year mission. Yeah. So I have tickets for that. So I'm hopeful. I have shot number one of the vaccine. So I'm hopeful that I will be able to travel down there. I mean, it's looking like it will go. Because I think Las Vegas has been pretty aggressive about getting people vaccinated. So I'm really, really hoping on that one, but we'll see. You know, um, that's the main one that I'm hoping for. The other thing is pre-COVID, I had bought a ticket to go to Nichelle Nichols' retirement, and that got obviously postponed. Will it still happen? I don't know, but I still have that ticket, so I'm hopeful for that. Um, those are the two that I have tickets for. So I'm hopeful that they happen, and I'm hoping that I will be able to cross the border and get down there, because right now the border is still closed. So I'm hoping that it'll be open and I'll be able to go down there, or at least I will be vaccinated and be able to to go down there. I do have some at the uh, there was a day where I forget what the occasion was, but they had some Star Trek programming on, and they announced a new Star Trek convention in Chicago for April.
Right. Next
What that
spring
what
2022. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what why what that the occasion was. Oh, it was First Contact Day.
Yeah.
First
Yeah.
Contact Day, they had some programming, and they said there's going to be a big convention. Right now, I don't, I'm on a mailing list and haven't heard anything from them, so I don't know what's happening with that. But if they do have a big convention, I've never been to Chicago, so
Mhm.
that would be kind of cool to go to that. And then my dream, okay, my actual dream is that I win $1 million and then I spend a year going to every single Star Trek convention in the world. That's my dream. And I would do that for sure. I would do that if I could. But barring that, I would like to one day get to Destination Star Trek in England. Uh, I've heard a lot about it, and it just seems like a fun thing to do. And I've been to England a couple of times, but I haven't been recently. So I would love to go to Destination Star Trek. I think that'd be fun.
Well, yeah, I look forward to those. I thought about the Chicago one myself. So, we can keep our fingers crossed and hope that, the world looks in a better place, and people are being safe and taking care of themselves so that we can safely meet in some of these places. So let's keep hope alive.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Well, Lisa, I want to thank you for your time today and sharing with us your love of Star Trek and some of the key pieces that you have. This has been really fun and exciting and insightful to sort of see. But most of all, I really appreciate your passion and dedication to this universe. And so I hope that we can keep talking and that we can keep collaborating and maybe have you back to talk about some other themes in Star Trek very soon.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really can't express enough thanks for giving me an opportunity to just even show a little piece of my collection because, so much of it, I don't get a chance to show it anywhere. I'll just say one thing, and that is there was supposed to be a Star Trek convention in Vancouver in July that
Oh,
was put
yeah.
on by Creation,
Yeah.
and it was canceled. But when they announced it, I had written to the organizers, to Adam and Rick, and asked them if they were interested in having a Star Trek museum, and they said yeah. And they had actually given me a room, like a 400 square foot room, that I could have displayed my Star Trek stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Well, so
yeah.
that's a possibility at some point, perhaps in the future, of doing some kind of display, like having
I would so love to just display my stuff and give people a chance to, to walk through and look at it. It's great showing stuff on Twitter and Instagram. That it's really fun. I'm really enjoying that, especially, you know, certain pieces people will have a real reaction. Like I mentioned that I happen to have a couple of cereal boxes that still have
yeah,
cereal in.
yeah.
There were a couple of people going like, "Oh my God," medical alert kind of thing. Um, so it's fun to sort of see, sort of reactions to things, but it would be really cool to just be able to walk through it all just once.
Yeah.
I'd love to just have it all out and be able to walk through it all, and have other people be able to walk through
That's very cool. Well, let's make that happen. So, wrapping this up, thank you once again, Lisa.
That's
If
my science division triple, sorry.
those are very good, I've seen those. Those are cool. If if folks want to reach you or find you, they can find you on Twitter. Your handle is at number one numeral Trek fan, and we'll put it down below for folks to be able to take a look at some of your photos on your feed of your
Thank you.
collection. But thanks very much for being here. And I want to thank every one of you for coming and hanging out with us a little bit. If you have any sort of questions or comments, please leave them down below and let us know your thoughts. You can also find more of us at the Anarres Project for Alternative Futures at our website, the anarresproject.org, or you can find us on all the socials. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So let us know what you're thinking. And if you do any kinds of collections of Star Trek memorabilia, let us know what you're looking forward to collecting, what you think of our interview today. We'd love to hear from you. So thanks once again. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Live long and prosper.
Long and prosper.